Hello, welcome to Stageworthy. I'm Phil Rickaby, the host and producer of this podcast. Stageworthy is Canada's theatre podcast, and on Stageworthy, I talk to theatre makers of all kinds, from actors to directors to playwrights, stage managers, producers. If they make theatre in Canada, I talk to them. Some of the people I talk to are household names, and the rest are people that I really think you should get to know. This is the first episode of my Toronto Fringe Festival coverage, and there'll be one episode this week. And coming soon, I will be doing 2 episodes a week, one on Tuesday on the regular schedule and one on Thursday to try to fit in as much coverage as possible. I am trying to balance some non-fringe with fringe, so I'm doing my best to give as much coverage to as many people as possible. Last year, I was able to do a bunch of fringe specials where I was able to talk to a bunch of people in small 15-minute increments. I just haven't been able to do that this year. So if that's something you were hoping for or looking forward to, I apologize. That's not something that I can do this year, but hopefully the coverage that I am able to provide will be of interest. My guest this week is Rymn Wadhwa. Rym is a Toronto-based playwright and engineer. Rym's play, Assembly Sυγgested, is going to be at the Toronto Fringe Festival and is one of the most inventive premises I've heard in quite a while. I really like this idea, and I really enjoyed talking to Rym. And so I highly recommend listening to this show and stick around to the end of the episode, and we'll talk about who my guest is next week and take care of a little bit of housekeeping on the other side. So now, here's my conversation with Rymn Wadhwa. Rymn Wadhwa, thank you so much for joining me. This is really exciting for me. Your show that I'm already excited about is called Assembly Suggested.
Yes.
Well, why don't we start? Could you give me what is the elevator pitch for your show?
Okay. The elevator pitch is that it's a show about 2 women building a chair today, but also maybe also a relationship to be determined.
And so this is like them trying to follow instructions on how to build the chair and perhaps even the relationship.
Yes. So it's kind of an increasingly absurd instruction manual that they're following. It starts with finding bolts and parts and screwing things together. And then it's like, give each other a compliment, which maybe is not part of a normal instruction manual.
I wish it was, because I got to tell you, one of my least favorite things to do is to put together like IKEA furniture. I don't know about you, but I invent new swear words when I'm following those instructions. It's so bad. Where did the idea for this show come from?
Well, it's about a relationship between 2 women, and it's very much mirroring a relationship that I had with an old friend of mine. And I think that's kind of the best way to build these fleshed out 3-dimensional characters is, basing off of someone you know. And the relationship that we had really did feel like building and breaking something. It was so dear to my heart, and everything felt like, okay, we're adding a little stack on our Jenga of our friendship,
Yeah, for sure. So like we were mentioning, just like as we were getting started, this is your first play.
Yes.
And you are not a playwright. Like this is nothing you do. You're not really a theater person.
I like theater.
But you're not somebody who's done theater
not
in
professionally,
the past.
yeah.
So the question is, you are in fact an engineer.
I am.
So I guess one of the starting points for any conversation is, how does an engineer end up writing a play?
An engineer or anyone ends up writing a play when they have a story they absolutely have to tell. I feel like how everyone feels when they're heartbroken and going through their turmoil, which is like, nobody understands this. I'm the only one in the universe experiencing this, and I have to let it out. So it doesn't matter what you do in your day-to-day. I think the artist it's going to want to come out in one way or another.
For sure. And I'm curious, as somebody, saying that the artist wants to come out, like, is this the first time that the artist has come out for you, or has the artist come out in other ways in the past?
I've played in a band. I've been a musician before. I like to paint. I like to draw, but this will be the first thing where, you kind of have guaranteed eyes on it. Like I really am doing this with an audience in mind rather than just up in my bedroom or for like 4 people at the bar,
Well, it is interesting. It's an interesting thing about the Fringe Festival is that unlike other times of the year, if you are, say, for example, trying to self-produce, sometimes it can be hard to find an audience. But with Fringe, there's an audience during that time that is looking for things to see, right?
Yes.
And so it's actually more likely that people are going to come and see a Fringe show than they would at any other time. Not to freak you out as a first-time Fringer.
No, I want it. I signed up for the awards and everything. I want all eyes on it. I want to really dive in. I'm not gonna do this halfway, you know?
No, and nor should you. Nor should you. You're not going to get anything out of the Fringe experience if you half-ass it, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh, was this a finished play when you applied for the Fringe?
It was half finished. It was, you know, it was, is it a movie? Is it a play? But the story was there. I knew exactly kind of what I wanted to do with it. And when I won the lottery, oh my God, I cried. I had tears because, again, I felt like I absolutely had to tell the story. And there's a different vibe to telling the story to my diary versus people hearing the story.
Oh,
So,
for sure. Now, we're still, I mean, as we record this, it's May. And so there's still
mhm.
a month and a bit before the festival. How are things shaping up for this show?
Super well. I have a amazing cast and crew. Yeah, all local GTA people. It's an entirely women and queer folk team that I've put together, and a lot of them have a lot of theater experience. So they get to kind of I get to have a little secondhand expertise because of them.
They do have a lot of theater experience?
Yeah, in various ways,
Yeah,
but yes.
that's amazing. That's amazing. Now, one of the things that Fringe has implemented in the last few years is I don't want to say that it's not like mentor groups, but it's like they're like cohorts of groups within the Fringe. Like, so they'll group some people together and they'll group some people together so that they could share a bit of knowledge and things like that. Often there is like a mentor within it. And that is
Yes.
super helpful for somebody, especially because a lot of people, it's their first time fringing.
Yeah.
How have you found that aspect of Fringe?
It's been good. It's been good. Yeah, I've gone to some of the mentorship, they call them pods. I've attended some of them. But I do think a lot of the you're on your own in terms of figuring out marketing and writing, and it's nice to more just talk and communicate with other people, but I don't think like, you really are on your own for it, which is nice. I like it. It's not a complaint at all.
It is something that you do have to figure out yourself, right?
Yeah.
Because nobody else can tell you how to market your show.
No.
People could give suggestions, and if you're trying things out, you can always run it past them, but ultimately you have to make the decisions. I was looking at your website, by the way, and your website has like that IKEA manual feel to it. It feels like your show. It feels like the description of your show, which is a great place to start. I take it that the in the title of your play, there's the umlaut over suggest the U in suggested.
Yes.
That's to suggest the IKEA-ness of the play?
Yeah, I thought it'd be fun branding. It is IKEA chairs. I've sourced the chairs. They are IKEA chairs that we're using for the show. Again, it's that thing of you can put it together yourself. It's this relationship that they're building. The metaphor is a little on the nose, I suppose, but I think it's clear.
Now, logistically, because they're putting together a chair, does that mean that they're gonna have to put together a chair and somebody's gonna have to take that chair apart at the end of each show?
No. So the solution we have is maybe a little bit more elegant than this. What we're doing is I got 4 chairs and they're all at various stages of being built. The entire set is cardboard boxes. So it's very easy to put something in a box and swap it out. Nothing's going to take time. I kept it as bare bones, minimal as possible in terms of that stuff. And I have a friend of mine who's helping with carpentry. So we can like a couple pieces you can just magnetically attach, that kind of thing.
Genius. Genius. Very, very smart, very good. I mean, of course, it being the Toronto Fringe, you only have 15 minutes to get ready and 15
Yeah.
minutes to get out, which can be a bit of a time crunch.
Yeah. And unlike you, it would be very annoying to have to take down IKEA furniture and rebuild it for every show.
I mean, in a way, I'm thinking about what a thing to do to your actors. They finally accomplished putting together the chair, and then as soon as the show's over, the stage manager begins disassembling the chair. Is like Sisyphus pushing
Yeah,
the
it's
rock.
performance art after the show.
I mean, maybe that could be a thing. That could be like the show after the show.
Oh, wait till next year. Woo.
Perfect. I'm curious about your writing process. Because as a playwright myself, I'm always interested in how people write plays. Now you were sitting with this idea and you weren't sure, is it a movie? Is it a play? What is it? When you sat
What?
down to write, What does that look like? Is it like stream of consciousness? Is it planning? What's your process like?
Totally stream of consciousness. Again, it came from a very specific situation in my life. So I have all this source material. I have photographs I can look at and all these memories. I have all these diary pages. And it's all about taking all those concepts and making sense of them and, you know, adding a narrative where possible. But I'll be honest, actually my show was not super narrative and plot point driven. And I've had this idea in my head. Tell me what you think, where I think it takes a good writer to write something with a lot of plot points, a lot of turns and twists. But I think it takes a great writer to write something a little more mundane, a little more boring, even, if I may be so bold. So it's kind of, we're doing like a snapshot of life kind of thing with some, the plot does advance, but it's kind of a snapshot of life.
One of the things that I find that's interesting about theater is it doesn't have to be about plot,
Yeah.
right? The relationships between characters and the
Mhm.
choices that they make can be the thing that engages the audience.
Mhm.
Nobody needs, like, you don't necessarily need an action sequence. It doesn't have to be that. It doesn't have to have like major plot points, because two people having a discussion, two people falling in love, breaking up, like all of these things, that can be what drives a play. And
For sure.
sometimes getting stuck on plot can be a bit of a crutch in terms of like putting a
100%.
story together. So absolutely, I think that a great writer can write without like a lot of plot points.
And those are the things I love, where you're like, how did you make a whole movie about someone being late for their flight and stuck in the airport and that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. With this play, um, I'm gonna be honest with you. As far as like concepts for a show, this one is a show that when you hear the description, you feel like, "Oh, I gotta see that." To
Oh, that's so
me,
cool.
and I've heard a lot of fringe pitches over in my years, this is one that's like, "Oh, I have to see that." That's where it kinda sits for me. So, I'm curious about, here you're working on this show, and do you have a wish list for what happens after Fringe, or are you too busy, like, concentrating on Fringe?
You know, I'm busy concentrating on Fringe, but I feel like I'm at a point where I'm so open to anything that could possibly come out of this. If we can make this show go any farther than Fringe, I'd be so grateful. I hope people resonate with it. I guess that's where it would start.
Yeah, for sure. D You mentioned that you were a theater goer before you sort of became a theater maker.
I enjoy theater,
Yeah.
yeah, of course.
Do you have a play that's your favorite?
The one that stuck with me the most, because I got kind of scared during it, I'm not gonna lie, was I went to see Life of Pi on Broadway, and that one really stuck with me. Not much of an inspiration for this.
No, but what was it that scared you about it?
I didn't know the story of Life of Pi before, so I mean, are you familiar?
Only vaguely. I haven't read the book, but I know a bit.
I mean, the whole thing, I guess there is a little bit of a parallel here, but definitely not a direct inspiration. The whole story is this kind of fantastical story about this kid on the boat with all these animals, and you're like, whatever. But then the animals are hurting each other and fighting and eating each other, and you're like, okay. And then you find out it's people. And I was so like, it was a rug pull. I loved it, but it was a little. I think I kind of did that with this play actually a little bit, where I don't want to say too much, but it's the kind of play where I think if you saw it twice, you'd be like, oh, that's why like all these decisions were made in the first half. I think I like that. I resonate with that style a lot.
I have a theory about plays for myself, and that is,
Mhm.
say, for example, if a play has a comedic premise, if a play is a comedy,
Mhm.
for it to be a play, there needs to be a moment where you have to pay off the comedy with something serious,
Yes.
right? If otherwise it's just a sketch. If you don't come in at the end and like have something meaningful, then it's just like sketch comedy, which is its own thing, but I don't think it's a play. So to
Yeah.
me, having something where it's like, oh, this is like a silly thing of people putting together this furniture, and then to have something really serious at the end makes the laughs earlier mean something more.
Yes, yes. I feel like exactly. By the end of my play, the first half will be very much recontextualized. And yeah, I think that's where the audience payoff will be. I would hope. I would hope.
Yeah, 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 for sure. I mean, you obviously have some hopes of what the audience will take from this play, and the lottery was in November, I think, October,
I won
November.
the satellite lottery, so I got it in January. So it's been
Oh,
an extra tight
oh,
timeline for
oh.
me.
So like a real extra, like you like really tight, because
Yeah.
that's only a couple of months. So this play must have been ruminating in your brain for quite some time before you put it on paper.
Yes, it had to have been, I didn't have time to come up with a new concept, definitely, but it was nice actually that moment because I turned 30 this year in January, and in that same week, I won the Fringe lottery, and it felt a little bit like divine intervention almost. That
Did
like,
that?
oh, things gonna change this decade.
Yeah. Does that? I mean, I haven't turned 30 in a long time, but like for me, and tell me if you felt this way. For me, it was 27. 27 was a massive year of like, it wasn't like I'm going to be 30. That was the stress at 27, not turning 30.
Mhm.
So it feels like when you're in your 20s and you're heading into your 30s, it feels like a big deal.
Yeah.
Does this and this play suggest to you that there's a new direction in terms of your creative life?
100%. I don't think again, I come from the world of engineering. I'm a chess player. I've been very much as much as I've been a little artist in my room, I've never taken it outside my room very much. I don't think I can go back. Now that I've had a taste, I haven't even premiered this thing. I can't go back. So yes, it's a new Rym. And it's funny that you talked about being 27. This whole play takes place in my 27th year of life. It's all about being 27.
Right.
It was a crazy year for me too.
Speaking of chess,
Mhm.
chess, when you're playing chess, you have to think several moves ahead.
Yes.
Does that kind of thinking affect how you approach creating a play, how you put together a dramatic structure?
100%. I think because of course you can come in new and you can say, okay, I'm going to learn how to do these things I can listen to a million podcasts, whatever. But I think we were talking about this before I think the recording started. I think there's an advantage to doing things your own way. And I'm leaning into the fact that I have this chess background, this engineering mindset where you're being super methodical. And I'm like putting my play into charts. No, seriously, I will chart it out. This is like high emotion. This is low emotion. You start seeing trends and stuff. You know, it's a new way of doing it. And I hope it's going to seem novel as people see it because I think it was written with a little bit of novelty kind of baked into the process.
I mean, the fact that it's your first play adds a lot of novelty to it.
Yes.
It being your first play and being an engineer, sometimes our families get settled in the way that you're an engineer and your family's probably like, she's an engineer. And
Yeah.
and then you start doing some theater. Are they concerned about your engineering future, as sometimes parents can be?
Listen, I have my ring. They can't say anything to me anymore. But I mean, I think you picked up on something. I definitely went in the STEM route because of, parental, we'll say influence. But, I have a career now, and now I think it's the time I get to feel the most free. Getting older was a blessing. I get to be free to do whatever now. And Fringe is amazing. It's not incompatible with the rest of my life, so I get to do both.
Yeah. I do think that it is possible to have your theater life and your work life.
Yeah,
I do that. I have a day job and I do this and I make theater. So I think
amazing.
that it is possible to do both. In fact, in some ways, it could be necessary to have that day job in order to fund that theater life.
100 beyond funding, I think people with the most interesting stories aren't just focusing on one thing in their lives. You want to be well-rounded. That's where the inspiration is going to come from. So,
Yeah. I mean, so many people that I know, they are many things. They are
yeah.
actors, playwrights, stage combat instructors. They are so many different things, right? And that helps them to be well-rounded. But the other thing that I think is helpful, that it can be possible. It sometimes happens that somebody is so wrapped up in the theater world that that's their world and not like the world of people who go to an office job or things like that. And so it can be hard to write outside of the theater world. It can be well-rounding to have the day job, to, surround yourself with people who don't know what theater is or don't know what these things are.
100%. 100%. I think it's definitely, again, it's all this is going to come across. This is such a confessional play that I think it's going to be obvious. I think I literally say in the play, oh, the main character is an engineer. Like, this is the level of, you know.
Now, this play is based on, I don't know how loosely, but it's based on something that happened to you.
Yes.
Does the other person know this play is happening?
You know what? She doesn't, because we haven't spoken, like, you know, for a long time. However, I know just based on like a one-line description of the play, she would know it was about her. So if she hears this or something, she'll know, and she'll respect it. But that's like how close we were and how much we understood each other, that she'll
Right.
know. Yeah.
Do you have like a plan for if she comes to the show?
I don't need a plan, because she'll respect me enough to not come to the show. Like, as much as you know, the heartbreak was painful, I think we understand each other too well, and there is a level of respect there. A boundary would never be crossed.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
That'd be,
That's good. Yeah. No, there's definitely been a couple of times I've done a show where I was like, there's one person I know can never come and see this show.
Oh, I would cry. I would be crying backstage.
No, Fringe is unjuried. There's no gatekeepers except for the lottery, right?
Yes.
It's so some of you never know what you're going to get. So it can be there could be a little bit of chaos in a Fringe season, and that could be freeing though. So was that kind of freedom like important to you as a theatrical debut?
Yeah, of course. I think freedom's the number one thing you want, right? You want to be honest and free. That being said, I don't think I'm pushing the bounds with too much craziness. Like, Fringe plays, they get really wild. This is something my parents could come see.
I mean, it's the interesting thing is you know, listen, every Fringe city is different. Every Fringe city likes something else, and Toronto likes some weird stuff. Toronto likes a bit of weird, but there's something about like the premise of your show, which is, I don't want to say normal, but it's like there's something every day about the strangeness to it. Like everybody knows the experience of putting together furniture.
Oh, 100%. Again, I this word has such a negative connotation, but I describe it as a little bit boring. Not that the play is boring at all, but I wanted it to be so just grounded in something mundane. I like that kind of stuff a lot more than a ton of action, ton of plot. And also it's much more feasible, you know? The whole thing takes place in a living room, cardboard boxes everywhere, building a chair, you know? And it's all about that conversation connection between these two people. And it allows me, I think, to dive into some very particular nuances of friendship that maybe aren't explored that often. There's this one idea that I've been thinking about a lot lately that I talk about, and it's this concept of spending more time with someone than they're spending with you. Because, you know, after the hangout, you're still thinking about it, you're replaying it, you're scrolling through Instagram, figuring out what the perfect thing to send them is. You know, you're hanging out with them, but they're not there. It's like these kind of really specific things that I want the audience to be like, oh, yeah, I've done that. I know that specific feeling.
I think we've all done that. It's you're right. It is like it's the hangout after the hangout.
Right?
Yeah.
But sometimes they're not hanging out with you. But
no, and that's like, then you're like send them that perfect meme or whatever, and then they don't respond, and you're like, hello?
I know, and it's to them, it's everything. You spend an hour curating the perfect post.
Yes. Not that I've ever done that.
Oh, of course,
No.
Hypothetically,
Purely hypothetical. Which venue are you at? You're at the
I'm at Native Earth.
Native Earth. In the Aki studio?
Yes.
Nice. That's
No, in the Jeezy studio. But I don't know if one is part of the other.
Oh man, I don't know, because I know they have two spaces there.
I know it's called Jeezy.
Okay.
But I believe it's part of the Aki studio, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't gotten to visit yet. That'll be at the end of the month.
Yes. Yeah. Which is close enough that you can get to the Fringe Hub at Soulpepper. It's a walkable distance. As opposed to if you were at Tarragon, which is a lot further away.
Yeah, I feel like Fringe this year is way more spread out than maybe I've noticed it being other years.
Do you have a history with Fringe before this? Like as a theater goer?
As a goer, but not as much as a. This is my first time doing it, so. But I'm not a first-time lottery enterer either. This is my first time winning.
How many times have you entered the lottery?
Twice.
Okay, that's a pretty good
It's
ratio.
not bad. The hit rate's not
That's
bad.
a really good hit rate. I know people who, like myself, I've entered a lot
Oh
more
yeah.
times, and that's just the fact that that's just the luck of a lottery. Is there a play that you've seen in Fringe's past that stuck with you?
There's one there's one that did stick with me. Not because it was, that impressive or anything. I'm actually not gonna name it if that's okay.
Sure.
But there's one that did stick with me because I didn't realize that Fringe was a lottery. It's just a theater festival. Like I didn't think about it. And I said to the person I was going with, I said, I think I could do this. And he said, yeah, like it's a lottery. And it stuck with me because that's when I found out. So it was that moment of like, this is good, but I could also be this good. And he said, the difference between you and this person is they did it.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I think a lot of people who are outside of the Fringe scene don't know that it's a lottery.
Yeah.
I know I've spoken to people and they were like, "Are you doing anything at Fringe this year?" And I was like, "I don't know. The lottery hasn't happened yet." And they were like, "The lottery?" Like they thought that I could just decide that I'm going to be in the Fringe if only.
I've also been surprised by how many people have never heard of the Fringe at all. Listen, I'm in tech spaces, so it could be more to do with that. But yeah, it really is on the fringe.
It is, and it's funny because the size of the Fringe Festival and how large it looms in the imagination of a city really depends on that city. Like
Mhm.
Edmonton is the largest fringe in North America, and that the entire city of Edmonton revolves around fringe when it happens. Winnipeg is second largest, and again, everything revolves around fringe. And a lot of the smaller fringes, of which Toronto comparatively is, there's a lot going on in the city, and it can be really hard to make fringe. Like I know people who've known me for years, and they're like, "What's a fringe festival?"
Yeah, no, it's weird that Edmonton and, I'm a Toronto girl through and through, but Edmonton and Winnipeg being the biggest ones in Canada feels crazy to me,
I mean,
considering Toronto is so bohemian and,
I
I
know
know it all comes down to budgets and stuff, of
it
course,
actually
but
comes down to which one was first, and Edmonton was the first fringe festival outside of
oh, okay.
Edinburgh, and then Winnipeg followed. So the reason why they are the biggest in North
Mhm.
America is because they were first and second. But of course, if you've never been, you have no idea how big those things are.
Yes, I would love to go to Edinburgh that's the one everyone talks
Oh,
about, so
of
I would
course,
love.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Being in a position where a lot of people that you know in the tech space, they don't know what the fringe is. How do you talk to them about the fringe and your show?
Oh, I guess I don't pitch it super differently than I would to a theater goer, but I guess their reactions are very different because it's so foreign, like these are people starting their own companies at like 25, some of them, but making a play feels like, how would I even, you know what I mean? Yeah, yeah, I guess it's not super different the way I talk to them about it, but it's nice because I think the level of excitement, it's not higher or lower, but it's uniquely different the way they're excited about it. To them, it's much more like the way you talk to a celebrity, like they're doing some unattainable thing. Whereas you talk to an artist and they know all about it and they're so curious about like the processes and the details.
Do you think that they're sort of like, this is the weirdest thing I've ever heard? Somebody doing a play.
A little bit, a little. I'm not gonna lie, it's been feeling good. It's very impressive to people, even though they haven't seen anything yet in the tech space anyway.
Is there anything about the theater that you find frustrating as an engineer?
But the theater that I find, I'm sure I'm gonna have more specific answers once we like work with the tech because I haven't gone to visit the venue yet. Maybe not as an engineer, but you really are limited in a lot of ways. I don't see it as a bad thing though, because you are limited, so you get to be more creative. Restrictions, they force creativity,
I
which I
I
like.
absolutely agree. The limitations of theater are actually its strength, right? Like
Yeah, exactly.
if you could do anything, it would be too easy, right? There's that. You're right. That's where the creativity comes in. And also, I do find I've said this before, and some of the listeners might be tired of hearing this, but like the facts that in theater the audience will just accept everything, they will suspend their disbelief.
Yes.
You can
Yes.
say this scene takes place underwater, and the audience will go, "This scene takes place underwater."
That's true.
And in a film, they'd be like, the special effects of the underwater scene just were not up to snuff.
No, and that's really well put. Exactly. Well said.
So far, I mean, again, we're getting into territory where, you haven't like done the tech, you haven't done the show, but to you, what does theater offer that engineering doesn't?
You get to express yourself in so much detail in theater and art forms in general. Engineering can be creative, and I don't want to say it can't, because I get to be creative at work every day, and I'm very thankful for that. But there's a level of self-expression that I think is so human that you need to be an artist to experience that, and I think any artist would agree with that.
Absolutely. I'm curious. A lot of times when I'm talking to people, I want to learn about what their theater origin story is, like what drew them to the theater. And I want to know, for you as a theater goer, a person who's been to the theater, is there an experience like, sorry, anyway, is there an experience that you've had? Was there was an early formative, like your first time in the theater, something that first made you a theater goer and that therefore started you on the journey to becoming a playwright?
I think, yeah, I guess so, because I got to see Rent at a formative age, and I love Rent so much. Is it good? I couldn't even tell you because I was like 16 when I saw it.
Oh,
So
you were like target age.
yeah,
Target age. What production did you see?
I saw the movie and then I didn't even see like a literal, like I had to watch bootleg videos of the Broadway production because I was so obsessed with it.
The final production, the final performance of Rent on Broadway, not with the original cast, though they do make an appearance, is available on Apple TV. I think you can rent it. So you could see not the filmed version, you can actually see a really well filmed stage version. So I highly recommend that if that's something I wanted to revisit. I was in my late 20s, early 30s when Rent came out. So I was like Mark and Roger age,
Oh, so you got
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Like I'm also a bohemian
Yeah, oh, for sure.
in a big city, yeah, of course.
For sure. And it was like, there's like, that I was in Toronto doing the thing, trying to work whatever I could at that time, and the show, I think, spoke to a lot of us at that time. As I've gotten older and lived with that show for a bit, I feel like the sad thing about it is that we are seeing the workshop version of that show, since he never got to revise it after its workshop production.
Oh,
right.
Interesting.
So it went from its like workshop production to Broadway because he died.
Yes.
And so he never got the opportunity to revise it. And I think that if there are things that maybe would have been fixed, plot holes that are like would have been patched if it got another pass at it. So it's like this beautiful, unfinished, rough-edged nugget of a play that still never fails to make me weep at the end.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good, but it's the thing I'm the most biased about in the world. That I could never review it. I don't know, because to me it's perfect. There are no rough edge. Like there are, but they're supposed to be rough.
Well, yeah, for sure. And it's hard when there's a play that you use, like, especially if you were exposed to that so early. And again, you were 16 when you first encountered that. There are distinct versions. Like the movie is very different from the theater version. Because you saw the movie first, is it your favorite, or is the play your favorite?
I think the movie's my favorite, but if I saw the play in person, it would be my favorite. Like again, I was on YouTube, like looking back.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Yeah.
Rent. I also, another one that's very random that I saw at a very formative age was I went to see the Green Day put out a Broadway musical, and I went to.
You went to see American Idiot.
I went to see American Idiot at a young age.
I mean, again, and the thing I love about American Idiot is because Green Day was only tangentially involved. Right?
Okay.
Like,
that sounds like a dig.
No. They were not. There was not. Somebody came to them and said, "We'd like to make a musical of this show."
Yeah.
And so it wasn't them. Like somebody else arranged the music. Somebody else. They gave their permission. And then later on, Billy Joe played St. Jimmy on Broadway. But it's not a show that they didn't write the Broadway version. So it's kind of interesting
Yes.
for it to be like a show that's like their show, but not. It's fascinating piece of a jukebox musical that doesn't feel like a jukebox.
It was an interesting piece. It was an interesting piece. I liked it. It's no Rent, but I liked it.
I mean, it certainly has some similar aspects to Rent, that sort of bohemian, the rebelling against the society, the drug use is also
Yeah,
part of it as
yeah,
well. Speaking of these two early formative plays,
yeah.
not necessarily not this specifically, but are there elements of these two plays, Rent and American Idiot, that you feel have influenced and informed your work now?
I think like just an edginess, right? Just a general edginess is baked into this. Rent's a little funny, you know? And I tried to make my play funny as well. I did include a musical number. I wrote some original music, and that will be in the play as
Are you
well.
kidding me?
No, I'm not.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah. So that'll be very fun.
What it what about your play demanded a musical number?
Well, so I get an hour slot, and I think I wrote about 45 minutes, and because I didn't know who my cast was gonna be, and I wanted to write them into it, like who they are into it a little bit. I was really like, okay, if I get a person of color like myself, there's a lot I could add there. If I get, just whatever, right? And I ended up getting a girl who's majoring in musical theater. So I said I have to give her solo. But beyond that, I think it's a very effective device for showing like a friendship. It's this moment where like they're kind of writing a song together, you know? I feel like that's such a quick way to show like, oh, like these people like on this they're on the same wavelength, you know?
I mean, there's something about being so comfortable with somebody and knowing them so well that you can start to sing and they'll join in.
Yes. Yes, exactly. It's exactly what happens. And then later, everybody's favorite, we have a reprise, but now the lyrics mean something different.
Of course. Um, Now you've mentioned, being a musician. Mixing theater and music is
Mhm.
is 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 a full musical something that is in the back of your mind? Have you ever considered that?
No, I think it's not at the back of my mind, but this never demanded to be a musical, you know? Again, I'm so open. We'll see where things go. I feel like yeah, it's an open-minded decade for me.
Yeah. No, as a musician, what are your instruments?
Well, when I was in a band, I played the bass, but I'm also a guitar player. So
Okay.
it's just those two.
Just those two. Okay. Yeah, just two instruments.
Just well, my composer, I have a composer for this, and it's all like original, like whole thing scored piano. It's beautiful. I was listening to a lot of classical music while writing, so I kept sending her inspiration, and she turned it into like a theme for the show. But yeah, she's like arranged it so beautifully that it's not a musical, but I think we have the minimal set with just the cardboard and just the two people talking, and then it's all this piano. It's gonna create a really cool atmosphere.
Mm. Now, you've mentioned the importance of having a woman-led show. Not just a woman-led
Mhm.
show, but, the producer is a woman, the cast are women, or female presenting, and that you've mentioned your composer. What's the importance to you of having all women or at least the majority women working on your show?
It's a story about women, and it's so listen, I want everyone to see it, but it's for the girls. It really is. I think a lot of the lines in it are gonna resonate uniquely with women. So just because of like the nature of the material.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, here's an interesting question. You have roots in Sikhism from your family background. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, yeah, that is.
And you came to Canada as a child from North India. Does your cultural background show up in Assembly Suggested, or is this a play deliberately operating in a more like separate from your own background?
The real story, of course, you can never separate race from like you can't separate race from your everyday existence. It doesn't show up so much in Assembly Suggested only because the 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 self-insert character is not a person of color. So I didn't want to include that stuff, but I was very open to it, and I think again, next production, I couldn't not talk about like my racial identity. It would be too important. It affects too much. And I think especially right now, I've noticed a bit of an influx of racism towards my community in Toronto. So it would be very topical, and it's important to me, and I feel affected by it every day.
I think it's important to when there are racist movements against a particular group, that it's important that group gets louder, not quieter.
Exactly, exactly. And I wanna be as loud as I can.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned like next production. Do you envision when this show is done that you might revise this script and change it for future, or is this it? Is it done?
I would be open to revising it 100%. The work is never done. Things can always be better and improved upon, and I think it'll be so useful to get that feedback. And I trust that I'll get real feedback from people who go. So I would love to revise it.
I will tell you.
Unless they say it's perfect.
No. I mean, the thing about it is that an audience will never lie to you,
Yeah.
right? The audience reaction is always true. So, like, the things that they think are funny are definitely funny. You know, that's the thing. And so being in the audience and like listening for their reaction is always super valuable.
Mhm.
I also believe in revising work. Like, to me, the work, like you said, the work is never done. I'm always like, ooh, I can go back. I can add this thing
Mhm.
and change the play until it's published. Then it's done. But like, I, as the
Yeah.
playwright, get to adjust it as much as I want.
Of course, of course. And this play specifically takes place in like it's a studio, so we don't have the curtains and everything. If I ever got to do something with it at a place that had more tech, a real stage, that kind of thing, of course, I would try to use all those elements as best as I could.
Yeah, absolutely. The play central tension, which is the gap between instructions and reality, it feels, I don't know, it feels very relatable. As an engineer, do
Mhm.
you find the gap between instructions and reality to be something you encounter often?
Yes, because it's something that works when you're at work, when you're solving a problem, when you're doing a math question, you follow the instructions and you get the answer. But that's not how relationships work. So it doesn't matter how much you follow what you think is the right set of instructions or the TikTok advice you found or whatever. People are people. They're unpredictable. And that's the beauty and the soul crushing part of it, right?
Yeah, that's true. Is there, in a month and a half, people are going to be seeing this show.
Mm-hmm.
Is there something that you want your audience to leave with from that show?
Yeah. I think I want to leave them a little emotional, torture them just a little bit, leave them a little bit emotional. I think I want them to be thinking of someone in their past when they leave. And I think I want them to also have that sense of like, oh man, I've been both these people, you know? There's no villains in my show,
There
you
rarely
know?
are.
Yeah, I don't think it's realistic to put a villain in the show.
Yeah.
And you know, when I started writing this, like it started off as a bit of a revenge fantasy, but that's not compelling. That's not interesting, you know? So as I wrote more, I think not only did I understand I guess my antagonist through writing it a little bit better, but also she stopped being an antagonist. She started just being a person with different needs.
Is that something that happened during the writing of the play? And did that make you feel differently about that person or what
I
happened?
think so. I think I have a lot more kind of grace in my heart, but this is the normal like grieving process, right? Like first you're angry and then eventually, okay, you know, we were two different people
Yeah.
at different points in our lives, right?
Yeah. Now, you said something that I found interesting. You mentioned like torturing the audience just a little bit. This might sound like a strange question,
Okay.
um, but that is Dungeons and Dragons attitude.
Okay.
That's like, I am running a game for my players, and the important thing is that I torture them just enough.
Yes.
Have you ever had any nerdy gameplay like that, or did you come to the torturing the audience thing? I don't know, honestly,
I guess I came by in this conversation honestly and just in my work honestly. But yeah, of course I've played listen, I'm an engineer. I've played D&D.
right?
But I think a lot of the art that I'm compelled by tortures me just a little bit. Like I like being uncomfortable, you know? Just a little. Just a little. Makes you think.
Well, I think that the important thing is that there is a little bit of discomfort, right? It's a like,
Mhm.
what else is the tension that makes the play worthwhile than a little bit of discomfort?
Exactly, exactly. Because then kind of how you said, like, you know, if there's nothing emotional, like it's just a sketch. I don't want people thinking like that was fun to look at, you know?
No, because that's, the last thing you want is to somebody leave your show and go, that was nice.
Yeah, yeah. I'd rather they hate it, honestly, honestly.
I mean, hate is a powerful emotion. The other option is that it could be a thing that they continue to think about from the time they leave the show.
Exactly. And I really think I did a good job with I'd like to think I did a good job with that. I'd like to.
Now, as you were writing this play, when was the first time that you heard it read out loud?
The first well, maybe like a really early draft, like February.
And you didn't have the actors that you have now for that.
No, no, that was like me and a friend of mine just reading it.
What did you learn from that early reading?
Oh, a lot. You really start to hear what pieces of the dialogue feel writery and what someone would actually say, because when you hear someone saying, you're like, "Oh, that's bad writing," you know? So that was super actually reading it out loud is the most useful thing. Maybe that's like the big takeaway I had, but plot-wise, not much has changed since the first draft till now.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like the play itself, the story arc it was pretty solid in it, but from the beginning, almost from conception, it sounds like. But you're right about hearing those writerly things, those things that like, oh, nobody would say this,
Yeah, yeah.
you know? And then like I know when I've had like the early draft read, somebody says one of those lines, you're like, I have to change this now.
It's the literally. And it's so funny because, of course, you're a writer. You think you're smart. You want to sound clever. And then when your characters sound too clever, it's terrible.
It's just that I think when those kinds of phrases come out of a character's mouth, it
Mhm.
so becomes clear that this is the writer speaking and not the
Exactly.
character, and it's almost screams that the writer said this, and that's not what you want because it takes everybody out of the moment.
Exactly, exactly. So I had to cut a lot of that. And I think again, like you have that urge, at least I had the urge of like, I want people to think this is smart. But if you just say the smart thing, you know, you're really not doing yourself.
It's funny because I've read not plays so much, but I've read a couple of novels where, the author was very smart, but they really wanted you to know that they were very smart, and it took a lot of time putting all of their smartness on the paper, and it was like, I am done with the smartness because this is not moving the story forward. This is just you showing off.
Yeah.
And that's not what you want when somebody's like watching your play or reading your work or anything like that. That's the opposite.
No, 100%, 100%. Yeah. It's so scary to put your work out there like that anyway. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that. How scared are you about having this play at the Toronto Fringe?
I'm terrified. This is George. I was terrified to come on this podcast. I'm so nervous. I'm a very shy individual, and it's a confessional. And I make myself look a little bad in it too. Like if anyone is able to be like, okay, that's the, you know, I'm so scared, but nothing good happens in your comfort zone. So I've just been trying not to. It's been interesting because I think I'm less scared of the masses reacting to it and seeing it than I am of like a close friend of mine who knows how to read. You know?
Oh, okay. Okay. So you don't mind like people who don't know you coming to see the show?
It's like internet logic, right? Like it's easy to tweet something. It's hard to like actually tell your friend about the stupid thing you're doing or whatever, you know?
It's true. It's true. How have you been dealing with that fear?
You have to ignore it. That's what I've been doing. You have to push through. What I'm locked in. I have a contract. You know,
Yeah.
there's no choice. And I've been really trying to remember that even if this doesn't go well, and it's somehow it becomes the worst play ever written by some crazy happenstance, I still did a cool thing. So I'm trying to keep that in my head that there's really no bad outcome.
I mean, the thing that, every year, I think at the end of Fringe, somebody will say, it doesn't matter how well your show went, you did it. You
Exactly,
did a thing that
exactly,
so few people ever actually do. You've done a
exactly,
play that you wrote, and that's so important.
exactly. So it's only up from there, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Just as we close, we've talked a little bit about the origins of the show. We've talked about what you want the audience to take away. Is there something that you want to take away from this play?
You know, again, because of how personal the story is, I'd like to think that once the play is done, that chapter of my life can be put to like rest, like a true closing of the book. That would be really nice. And then I want the next chapter to open, which is I want to meet a bunch of people who resonate with the art, and then we'll see where that goes. Like I'm an artist now, you know?
There is something fascinating about using a play that you wrote to close a chapter, to be the catharsis that lets you move past a thing, to move to the next stage of your life. And when you've done that and it's been a great experience, it does take you forward, you know?
Mm-hmm. How could it not, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Well, Rym, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate this, and I am so looking forward to this play at the Toronto Fringe.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been so much fun. My first interview.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Stageworthy. If you're watching on YouTube, please make sure that you like this episode. Leave a comment so I know you were here. And if you would like Stageworthy in general, make sure you hit that subscribe button and that bell icon so that anytime a new episode comes out, you'll get notified that a new episode is available. If you're listening to the audio version, make sure that you are subscribed. Go to your favorite podcast app, search for Stageworthy, and hit the follow button. And while you're there, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, do me a favor and leave a rating and a review. Your ratings and reviews will help new people to find this show. I want to talk about my Patreon because I can't do this show without the people who've chosen to back me on Patreon. It costs money to do a show like this. Even though you get it for free, it does cost money to do it. There are costs involved with having a website, hosting the audio files so they can be distributed to all of the podcast listening places. Editing software costs money. Image editing software costs money. Having transcripts done costs money. And all of these things are things that for most of the history of Stageworthy, I've paid for by myself, but I can't do that anymore. And so I need the help of my patrons to make this happen. Patrons make sure that those things get paid for. And I'll be honest, we're just covering costs right now. And there's a lot of my time that isn't being covered right now. But I do this show because I love to do it. I love talking to people. I love sharing new people with you. And I love getting to know what's going on in the world of theater in Canada. And so if that's something you'd like to be a part of, if you want to help me to make this show, go to patreon.com/stageworthy and become a patron. Patrons get early access to episodes. We will have conversations about the world of theater and what's going on. And you know what? The more people who join the Patreon, the more I will be able to offer to patrons. So if that's of interest to you, if you are interested in becoming a patron, please, I'd love to have you. I'd be really grateful to have your support. So go to patreon.com/stageworthy and become a patron. My guest next week is Stephen Drover. Stephen is currently directing and has adapted Shakespeare's Macbeth for Bard on the Beach in the Vancouver area. So tune in next week to hear more about Macbeth at Bard on the Beach with Stephen Drover.